Hello everybody, welcome to my first ever video game tutorial, or more so just a let's play of Warframe. This is a game I've been playing for a while now. It's a MMO, RPG, FPS, grinding kind of game, something to do in my free time. I play a lot of video games, but this has been one that I've on and off with for about 2 years now, but it always keeps me coming back. It's free to play. You download it off the PlayStation Store. I, of course, am on PlayStation, but it's available, I believe, on every console, and, of course, PC. Today, we are going to be looking at a build for a frame that I use. These guys that I'm controlling right here are called frames. Our frame today is Equinox, or frame of the day. Maybe that's what I'll title the video, is frame of the day. Frame of the day, Equinox. So, I am very heavily melee focused when I play this game. I only use melee weapons for the most part. I do have a primary I use, I also have a secondary I use, but I enjoy using melee. I feel like melee has the most potential to be entertaining. That being said, there are plenty of weapons that are super fun, super hilarious to use. The lens is pretty hilarious. If you've never tried this out, it's a Corpus energy bow that shoots dome explosives. That's the best way I could describe it. But that is not the focus today. We are focused on Equinox. So, right into the build. Start off with the aura mod, Corrosive Projection. Corrosive Projection is reducing enemy armor. This helps us eliminate targets with armor faster. A lot of things in this game have armor, so it helps out a lot. Then we move on to Narrow-Minded. This is ability duration, but it also takes away range. With this build being a melee build, primary focus, range is not a huge deal. Of course, we have a counterbalance mod, which is stretch, which adds range, so it's not too low, but range is not our main focus. Of course, this build is not maximized. This is a quote-unquote zero forma build. That just means I have not changed any of these empty slots, or any of the slots, to fit better mods. So ability duration is going to give us more duration for all of our abilities, but mainly focusing R1. R1. R1 is helping us switch between forms, but it also gives us a buff every time we do. Then we move on to Vitality. Vitality is just used in conjunction with Rage. Rage is going to give us energy every time we take damage. Vitality is just making sure we can take enough damage to not instantly die. Then we have Stretch, of course, like I said, it's a counterbalance mod for Narrow-Minded. Not too important. I just put this on earlier. I like it, but you can change it to use whatever you like. But I feel like it's really beneficial overall to have just a bit more range. Eventually, I want to open up this slot up here, which is currently locked, to throw on what are called Exilus mods. These just kind of give little tiny buffs to random abilities in the game. Power Drift, ability strength, and then chance to resist knockdown. Very good, very great for a power strength build, which is kind of our focus, but I'm thinking of throwing on something like Cunning Drift, which adds ability range, which is going to give us just that little bit to push us over the 100 mark, which is positive. We're moving on to Blind Rage. Blind Rage is ability strength and minus efficiency. With this, in conjunction with Rage and Vitality, we're not worried about efficiency. Efficiency is how much energy it takes to cast your ability. When we're taking damage, and when we have enough health to take that damage, we're going to be able to fill up that energy bar easily. No problem about that. So, not worried about efficiency. This adds strength. Strength is important for both our 3 and our 4 abilities. It'll amplify how well they work. Transient Fortitude, again, same thing, ability strength, but minus duration. As you can see, it only minuses a little bit of duration, and because we have Narrow-Minded and it adds 81% duration, we're not too worried about that. That gives us just enough duration that it is beneficial and gives us more strength that is also beneficial and doesn't take away too much. Last but not least, we have Prime Flow. This is just energy max out. This is maxing the cap. If you look on the top left, you see our armor, energy, health, shield, and sprint speed. This is maxing the cap of energy. If I take it off, it gives us 225. That is our base level. And if I put it on, of course, it gives us 525. With Flow, this just allows Equinox's abilities to be up longer and to stay in forms longer. You could even run regular Flow. You could probably run this without any Flow. But I have not been daring enough to try that. So that about sums up the build. We move on to our abilities. So duration is going to be for our 1. Switching forms, temporarily gain a bonus shield and armor in night form. Not too much of the focus of this build. Or bonus damage and speed in day form. When I was thinking of this build when I was using Equinox, I wanted to do the most damage as fast as possible. So bonus damage and speed were huge factors in that. So throwing on duration and throwing on power strength, that increases our damage multiplier and our speed increase, making our 1 more useful, I guess is the term. Most people just use it to switch between forms, don't really worry about the buff, at least in the videos I've seen. I like to use that buff. R2, I haven't found a way that I like to use this. It is very good in night form if you build it correctly, but I just don't like it. I've tried using it with an augment mod that changes the way the ability functions, but I just feel like it doesn't work well enough. So I haven't really focused on the 2. Of course, it is very useful because it adds damage vulnerability, which is at a 1.13. Great, except it's only good for single target damage. If you're dealing with a huge crowd, you're not going to be able to cast this enough times to control that whole crowd. There is the augment mod that once killing someone affected by rest or rage, it spreads. Again, this is only really great in its night form if you're doing stealth missions, kind of like that. But I don't really use his 2. It's not something I enjoy. Not yet, at least. I'll be looking into it, hopefully, in the future, if I decide to make another video on Equinox. There's, like I said, many builds that can be made, so we'll see if I get a good response from this, and if other people want to see what I can come up with, by golly, I'll do it. Then we move on to our 3, Pacify and Provoke. This is a AoE around us, area of effect around us, that does not do any damage, but as we kill enemies or we are near enemies, it increases ability strength of nearby allies. This, of course, is in day form. In night form, it reduces the damage you take. In day form, this is going to be beneficial because we combine that in junction with our 4, which is our quote-unquote ultimate. The way I use this is I proc it and I just let it run. I don't worry about it. It is just to make our 4 do more damage. At the same time, I really enjoy how much damage the 4 does, but it is a hindrance sometimes when you're trying to lifesteal and your 4 kills something. It's just a bad time. Moving on. The range for our 4 is a little small. It's about the same size as our Pacify and Provoke. Again, you can amplify that. This is not a maximized build. I'm sure I would increase that later. But I don't really focus on using the 4 to do damage. I use the 4 for a stun. In day form, nearby enemies are bled and then subject to a wave of slash force. The way the 4 works is you activate it, you leave it running. As you kill enemies in your vicinity, it builds up a counter. Once you activate that again, it releases the counter and does either the healing, which is in night form, or in day form, it does the wave of slash force. I mainly use 4 as a oh crap button, or a oh sh button. This is so if we get surrounded or there are big enemies in our way that we can't really take down efficiently, or we are just really close to death and we need to get out of there as fast as possible. Using your 4 is like dropping a nuke. You drop it and everything dies, at least within a 16-meter range. This is also going to do damage over time, 339. It's not going to read that when I hit enemies with it, but it does a pretty substantial amount of damage. It gives us a damage multiplier. Not really sure how that works. I believe it's just damaging enemies that builds the counter faster, same way the health multiplier works, but haven't really experimented with it. Last but not least is the energy per second. It drains 3.2 energy per second. Not a big deal when we can take damage and keep refreshing our energy. So, now that that all is covered, I've been using the Jack Kassar. I have a build for that. Again, I can do a link for that, or a video for that, if people want to see that. But I'm going to focus mainly on our Warframes build today. So, I like to go to Sedna. Sedna is a higher rank planet that you unlock by doing most of the story, I would say. I think it's about one of the last planets you unlock. So going to Sedna, I like Selkie. This is a survival, 30 to 40. It's not bad. It's kind of like my playground, my testing ground. There is a simulator that people use, but it doesn't give experience. While I'm leveling stuff, I like to test it while I'm leveling. Most of the time I can tell if a weapon is good or bad while I'm leveling it by testing it out. If it's killing level 30s at level 1, that weapon has very good potential. That's how I found out the Jack Kassar was so good. So we're going to go ahead and activate this alarm. First thing we do is activate our 1. This is going to give us our buff. And this is speed. As you can see, we got a little bit faster. And also a damage booster. I suspected they might try this. Right now, we don't want to do damage. What we want to do is keep our melee weapon out and equipped so we can use our lifesteal and take damage. And then we're going to hold L2 and lifesteal them. As you can see, we're already at 400 already. Okay. 400 energy. That's at the bottom right-hand corner. And once we get... that's probably good. Once we get a good amount of energy, I like to run off a little bit, rebuff everything, switch back to day form, activate our 3, activate our 4. That stuns everything and does damage. As you can see, they're dropping before I can even get to them. This is going to be, of course, not the case once we get into a higher time. I'm only going to go to 5 minutes just to really show this off. Most everything is dying. The only problem with that is that we're not taking damage to rebuild our energy. But if they survive the first few seconds of main, then they will start attacking us again, allowing us to build energy. Well, if they will stop dying. So just for the sake of showing it off, I am going to close the 4. So the way the 4 works, like I said, you activate it, it does the stun and slash. Whoa. We'll see if we can get a big group of enemies real quick. This is alright. Bam. Most everything in the area died. Of course, close to us. If they didn't, they were hurt pretty badly. So we want to take a little bit more damage. Come on. Come on. You can do better than that. I believe in you, Elite Lancer. You can do it. You can kill me. Just kidding. Okay, so we got about 510 energy. Ooh, I'm getting really close to dying. Just kidding. Okay. So, as you can see, when we don't have our 4 activated, it makes crowd controlling a lot harder. When we do activate our 4, it makes crowd controlling a lot easier. Of course, kills them pretty quickly, but we have quite a bit of energy. already built up, so we're not worried about it. Of course, if I wanted to, I could close my 4, switch back to night form, and then switch back to day form, and have the damage buff again. I mostly use that after I've gotten out of a tight situation and go ahead and just rebuff. It's not amazing in terms of damage for our main, which is our 4, that once we release it does the wave, just because it doesn't have that big of an area of effect. Like I said, I use it as a nuke for when I'm getting out of tight situations. So closing our 4, and then going back to 1. Of course, this deactivates our 3 in day form. Once you switch between day and night form, it will deactivate your 3 and your 4, but not your 2. If you're using a 2, and I cast that 2, and I switch, he is still covered, or I guess, or spiked for damage. Of course, if I hit the 2 in night form, he goes to sleep. Opens up for a finisher. Really good, but not what we're focused on. So, switching back to day form, we want to take a little bit more damage. We're kind of low on energy. Come on. There you go. There we go. So, the main thing is we want to focus on keeping our 1 up. If you want to not focus so much on using the 1's buff, that's totally okay. Using 3 and 4 will keep you going for a long time. I've survived 20 minutes plus easily with this build on this map. So switching that, and bam. Alright, everything's stunned. Stupid shield guys. Earlier I was trying to do a bit of pre-recording for this, and those shield guys were not too kind to me. But stun them all, kill them all. They can't do anything. We've got energy. When they damage us, we get more energy. Easy living. You can, of course, use any melee build or any melee weapon you want. I enjoy the Jat Kassar. The Jat Kassar has a mod on it that gives us lifesteal. If you're not familiar with it, it's called Life Strike. Every 40% of damage taken is converted into energy, and that is that's rage. 40% of damage done gives us life, and rage is 40% of damage done to us gives us energy. So those in conjunction together give us plenty of energy and plenty of health. So that about wraps up the build. You can just keep going on and on and on until you get overwhelmed. I usually hang out around 30 minutes or so. If I'm leveling stuff, or especially if I'm leveling stuff, I can't survive very well if I'm not using a frame that has good CC. But that about concludes it. We're going to go ahead and get to extraction. Alright, and we are extracted. Damage dealt, damage taken, 167 kills. That's alright. Wasn't really going for kills, mostly spending time focused on the build. But you can get up to the thousands with this build. This is by no means an in-game build. Maybe. I haven't tried to go in-game with it. I haven't tried to sortie with it, but I would imagine it would do decently. But that about wraps up the video. If y'all liked the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and even subscribe. I'll be releasing more stuff, hopefully. If I get good feedback, let me know what I can do better, let me know what I can do different, and anything else you have suggestions about. Alrighty guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will see y'all next time.